Hey, good evening, Maria, back with another video. It's 6:41 p.m. and I am so glad that the days are longer. I'm enjoying a lot more sunlight when I get home. It's helping my mood. I'm not completely cured from severe depression, but you know what? It helps a lot. Sunlight is something that benefits people. You just ask a lot of people who live in Seattle, they'll talk to you about how they deal with their depression. Apparently, a lot of people there have depression because it's so dreary and rainy a lot. But anyway, so I decided to come on here and make a video. I'm trying to get some things off my mind right now. I have so much negative stuff in my head sometimes that so I sit here and I come on this channel and talk about all the negative shit in my head. But the good thing about it is that I do have viewers who have negative shit in their head, so somehow it soothes them to hear my negative shit. It's a very strange situation, but you know what? Somehow, some way, we can find healing, even if it's just for a little bit. So, I realize how people have had a negative perception of me, and I will say that I do have good standards of living, and I've mentioned this before in my video. And I can't say that I've always had good standards of living. I mean, there's obviously things that I've done in my past that I should not have done. And I think that when it's human behavior to try to point out the errors and flaws in other people, even though a person themselves might be even worse off. They will be quick to jump on the negative aspects of a person or their behavior or an issue that they did or some sort of mistake that they did. And I think, and I'm not quoting the Bible to be a religious freak by any means, okay, because that's a part of my life that is pretty much over. But there was a lot of good things that I did learn from studying the Bible. And because some of these parables that they bring up in the Bible, it does have a lot of truth to it. You know how Jesus said, don't take the don't. God, what was that? Let me just look it up because I don't want to misquote that anything right now, and I hate it when people start misquoting things and then they don't really know what they're saying. But um, um, the plank. Okay. He said, you hypocrite, first take the beam out of your eye, and then you will see clearly to remove the speck from your brother's eye. People are always focusing on um, these, they like to point the finger at what other people do. And they want to divert the attention away from the negative things that they do. And I'm going to say, and I've said this since the very beginning, before I started making understanding more about what was going on in my targeting situation, before I figured the whole thing out. I started making these videos in September of 2015, about a year and a half after I left the stupid farmer's place. And I was basically talking about how, I have never tried to blame anybody for my mistakes that I've made in my life. And I've always tried to take responsibility for them. And that was a part of my desire to have a spiritual life. And even though, when I'm going to talk a little bit more about the issue of me giving birth to a child and not being married a little bit in this video, but not too much, okay? I think a lot of women I don't consider bringing my son into this world a mistake. And obviously, if I have the reproductive organs to do that, I believe I look at more of what's natural, what can naturally occur versus maybe tradition or maybe social convention. And that way, I guess maybe I am different. And I'm not saying that people should deliberately do that, but you have to understand, at the time I was younger, I was studying with Jehovah's Witnesses, and Jehovah's Witnesses weren't against abortion and everything. So I figured, I'm going to be okay. I'm going to bring my kid in the world. And I wanted to anyway. I was excited about having a child. I was very, very excited about it. And I would visualize, him would be like feeding him, strolling him, and I didn't have the whole big picture vision of what it was like to raise a kid, but I welcomed having my son. But anyway, I think a lot of people look down on me for that. I knew that, you know, the majority of people did things like quote unquote the traditional way. You know, they got married and whatever. But, you know, I was also young and I was also naive, and I also believed, you know, in this guy that I was dating at the time, which was his father, which gang stalked me, which brought me into this stuff as an adult when I thought we were over and through many, many years ago. But, you know, I was young and he called me up one day and he wanted to start dating me. So we started dating. And the next thing you know, we ended up having this little quasi relationship or whatever. And so, believe me, that was not my intention, but this is what ends up happening. And so, you know, things didn't work out. But all these years, I realized that I have been carrying a burden of having a bad reputation, and people pointing the finger at me like I was some sort of horrible person while everyone else held this man up on a pedestal. And when I start getting a clear vision of this, how is it that I cannot see people as just like evil, rotten, worthless scums of the earth? Not because they're friends of his, but because they immediately judged me and deemed this man as a righteous person when this man never paid child support. So people can say, oh, you know, he set you up in jobs, but he was setting me up in jobs so that he can control and manipulate my life. And bringing in people and doing harassing things to me at work. So no, I don't see it that way. And this, I really don't want to talk about this, make this video like a blame game video. I'm more like reflecting on, you know, my experiences growing up and my religious, I don't even like to use the word religious. I'm going to say my spiritual journey. You know, when we think of like Jehovah's Witnesses or even Christians or people, any sort of religious background, you know, we generally think of people like this who are forgiving of sins, or people who, I used to think this. I used to think, seriously, because I take spirituality seriously. And this is one of the things, like I told you before in my video, I wanted to be a nun when I was growing up because I always felt like this intense, strong feeling towards the supernatural, you know, and I always felt like I had to be accountable to this powerful force, and I had this great respect for it, even before I remember my parents telling me there was a God. Even before all of this, I just knew it was there, and you know, I think that in certain cultures, you know, they recognize this in certain individuals, so then they make sure that this person has some sort of role in some sort of religious service. Like some people have children and they're like, okay, well, I see this in my kid, I'm going to go ahead and send her off so she can be a nun or whatever. Well, my family wasn't really like that, but I just knew that this was my path. Like I wanted to be somebody who constantly was involved in this, and it didn't have to involve like church. It didn't have to really involve, although I did visit churches and stuff, but it didn't really have to involve other people. I didn't need other people to be involved in my spirituality, if that's what it means. I believe I had a calling in this life to have this gift that was inside of me. But anyway, you know, anyway, I think everyone kind of judged me, and which, you know, I think when people first glance, people think, well, you know, look at her, she must be. I'm going to tell you what. Some people might say that I was promiscuous or something. I can't say that that's true. I think that most women my age have had far more sex partners than I have, dated more than I have. I was a young girl who got into trouble, basically. And so when people try to point the finger at me and say these sort of things, I kind of laugh. And then, you know, yes, I do take care of myself. I do. Ever since I was a kid, I'm going to tell you what, since the first time that my mother let me go buy lipstick, I knew right then and there, this was my love of life, you know, and it is. And every time when I was little, I would draw pictures of women, and women always had makeup on. They always did. In my mind, and this is how it is in my mind. In my mind, this is just what women do. I'm not saying women have to do it, but everybody has their ideal of what their life standards are. Okay, just like some people think that women should be um, bakers, cooks, mothers, or whatever, and they themselves grow up to be that person. This is a vision only one person can have of themselves. I know that society likes to put women in boxes, and it's like a one size fits all type thing. Like they'll look at a woman and say, "Oh, she's like 40 something, 50 something years old. She should be having children, grandchildren, tending to them, or whatever." In my mind, some women should and some women shouldn't, and I think that, and I've talked about this before, I brought up the issue of Sir Andrea Yates and the other lady who ended up killing her kids because I believe it was societal pressure. Like people were basically forcing her into marriage, women into marriage when they really weren't ready or even wanted to, or maybe they could have probably possibly never been ready or uh, interested in marriage. Society puts people in situations, or the majority, or peer pressure, I should say, puts people in certain situations that they don't belong in. And so, you see these women who have children and they're living a life that everyone expects of them. And then lo and behold, they go around, they drown their kids or they beat their kids. And I'm not saying what they're doing is right because it's not, okay? But they when you do this to women, you don't give them an outlet. You put them in a situation where they have absolutely uh, no other recourse but to do the things that they do. Like, let's just say, take my example of for instance, okay? Like, you take maybe, I don't know exactly what was going on with Andrea Yates, but she seems to be someone that stands out in my mind for somebody who had to live up to somebody's expectations. She had a bunch of children, and I know that there was a lot of there was a huge religious element to this. Okay, and she was just expected to be someone's wife, and maybe she wanted to continue her career. Maybe she wanted to do other things, but her family was behind it. Her friends were behind it. Everybody was telling her how to live her life. And then one day, I personally think she just snapped and really in other situations she may have been able to get some sort of outside help to so that wouldn't have happened. You know what I mean? Sometimes I think a lot of times women, particularly women, get separated from their true selves in marital situations, as well as pressure from their families or whatever, and then the pressure builds up, and then they become abusive parents. And I see a lot of women who sacrifice their lives for people who don't even appreciate it. Like, there's a lot of women who look at the empty shells of themselves all the time. I see this a lot, where women will get married and they'll have a few kids, and next thing you know, it's just a matter of time. Their husbands are, going to start looking at other women, so they start feeling devalued. They have disrespectful children who don't really appreciate the sacrifices. And I'll tell you what, if you have a child, you have sacrificed a lot, okay? Whether that be working longer hours to keep a roof over their head, or maybe you've denied yourself something so that you can make sure that they have that, whatever. They won't see that, but they will definitely be disrespectful at times. And so women are they run themselves into the ground, and nobody really appreciates the pain and the sorrows and the sacrifices that they give up. And really, a lot of them look back at their lives and like, was it really worth it? And I don't think a lot of women can say that it was. So anyway, I'm just somebody who I feel as though I got a really bad rap in my life. I also feel as though I would have had a better life, a happier existence in my life had I not been born in my family. Had I never met my son's father, I would have had a better life. And some people say, well, that's not true. What makes you think this? Because I had the a very bold demeanor as I was growing up. I was a go-getter. Okay, I was a go-getter, and it's not that I don't have the confidence. It's just that I dealt with a lot of people who were brainwashed by them, and I find it kind of funny that I was marked as such a bad person I didn't break any laws. I know that my son's father has a very strange, and this is what I'm gathering psychically, has a very interesting sex life. I'm not judging that, but I think it's funny that they would use religion as an excuse to try to subjugate me or try to force me into some sort of relationship, I was always looked upon as a bad person. And I think that that's, to me, it pisses me off because it has reduced the quality of my life um, significantly. You know what I mean? And some people might think, well, you think that people don't like you. I don't. No, I don't think that people like me. I don't think that they do. And I think maybe they're okay with me, but I also think, that these people have stirred up so much controversy that people kind of wonder, they have feelings or issues with me at times, that I think. And I don't want to delve into it because I don't want to know everything what people think, because if you had to go through your life knowing exactly, because I could, believe me, I could sit here and spend time meditating on what people think of me, and then I could not want to leave my house because I would have to feel like people might want to kill me or something. I don't want to know the answer, really, but I do feel as though there was a lot of things that were said about me that weren't true, and that people desperately wanted to believe that was true. And I also know that when I think about this girl, the girl over at, oh geez, Murray Family Farms. I don't know if she became a Jehovah's Witness. I thought she was a Seventh Day Adventist when I was working with her. I don't know, but um, and the whole issue of the overweight thing. I will say I do have different views and values, and I'm not belittling people who are overweight. I understand the struggle of people who gain weight and that sort of thing. Everybody goes through these, like, these waxing and waning of their weight. Okay, but I do think that people would be better off if they took better care of themselves and they wouldn't let them get to a certain point. And I do think it's sad, and I think it's a society has really lost it or lowered its standards by allowing themselves to accept this sort of behavior. I'm not saying that it's wrong to be overweight. I'm just saying is when you start bullying other people who choose not to, then you've obviously accepted something that has obviously have always been looked upon, and biologically, and in every way, is not the norm. It is not normal. It's common, I would say, to be overweight, but it certainly is not normal. I know that our bodies are not meant to be overweight, not for long periods of time, and not to certain sizes. Okay, I felt as though I was being bullied and harassed over this, and I think, like, I don't want to sound like a broken record, but and some people would say, well, since you're not interested in having a man, well, then you need to gain weight, which means I don't know why they think this, but I believe, I know it sounds weird, but this is my idea of what a woman is. A woman is somebody who, now this is my idea. I'm not saying it's everyone else's idea, and I'm not saying this has to be the majority of ideas. In my mind, since I was a little kid, and I would draw pictures of women always had fucking makeup on. They always had fucking nice clothes on, the best I could draw them, and they always had a certain body figure or whatever. So in my mind, this is the kind of person that I choose to be. You know what I mean? This is what I believe and accept in my life, and these are the life principles that I choose to live by. And when you deal with people who want to force their life principles on you, whether that be the religion or their weight problems or whatever, I will also say that that I've noticed that things that go on now is different. I know the world is changing. People talk about the world changing all the time, and it is. And I know technology has gotten, I would say, better. Even though I'm not a techie person, I will say I am amazed at some of the inventions and the improvements that they've made throughout the years, okay, that have made people's lives easier in a lot of ways, okay? I will acknowledge that. But they also, I will say, have, when it comes to how we view ourselves, how we take care of ourselves, I'm not I'm not on board with that, and I never will be on board with that. I know back in the early 2000s, um, it started becoming very, very well known. They did news coverage on it. It was on TV a lot. Okay, it was like news channels. It was commercials were advertising all kinds of fad diets because there was a certain point where people were starting to gain weight rapidly. I would say like in the early 2000s, and people were amazed by it. It's like they were talking about how people in the United States were fatter than ever, and people across the world, like you go over to people over in like you know like the Orient, okay, they've always been known to take care of themselves, okay, but of course they have some of those places have American restaurants, and they're starting to look more Americanized themselves, okay, which they're dealing with obesity now, and so it was like an epidemic. And then after a few years, they were like, well, how are we going to do this? How are we going to solve this problem? They started talking about childhood obesity, which I noticed when I was a kid. I would go to school and maybe might be like two or three overweight kids. And believe me, those kids got poked fun of all the time. It's not right, but this is the way it was back then, okay? And now I look outside and I see gobs and gobs of people who are overweight. And I was looking at some photos that were like taken in the 1960s of people on like the beach, right? And there's like I can see a bunch of people, old, young, all scattered across the beach. And the majority of the people were of a certain weight, and they were not overweight. Okay, there was a few. There's always been a few overweight people, but that was like a minority back then. And I understand, people have become more accepting. I know they have those things called the fat acceptance movement. I've seen like, ads in lingerie ads, as well as like, clothing ads or whatever, where they show plus size women. And that's fine if that's what they choose to be. But do not bash me. Do not put in death traps. Do not threaten my life, because I choose not to be that way. And that's certainly my choice of being thin, or I'm not even thin. I would say that I'm a average size weight. Okay. I would not, when I think of thin, I think of somebody whose clothes are like kind of baggy and falling off of them, and they have, like this, it's a very different kind of look. Okay. But because I choose to take care of my body to the best of my ability, it does not mean that I am somebody who's looking for sex, looking for even love or anything. This is what I embrace as normal. This is what I embrace as a standard that I choose to live by. Because it is what I believe in. I believe in this. And I'm not, and I don't deserve to be bullied for my standards. And so, I don't know. I know that people thought that, they've said rumors about me. They've thought negatively because I, I had a child and I wasn't married. But, here's the thing about fake Christians. Fake Christians they will rally abortion clinics. They'll sit there and like yell at you and tell you you're a bad person if you have an abortion. But if you decide to have a child, then they're going to bash you because you had the child out of wedlock. Okay, it's like, to me, if you're a decent Christian person, you would adhere to what the Bible says, and you would assist those people the young people who are born without fathers. You would assist women who've been deserted by men who, whatever. I'm not saying that I'm ever asked for a handout, because I didn't. I never asked anybody to give me anything. I've always tried to do and stand up on my own. And I'm so sorry. I'm very sorry. I cannot tell you how sorry I am that my son's father took it upon himself, and his fucked up family took it upon themselves to arrange my job and then try to force me into a lifestyle I would never accept. You know what I mean? So yeah, I do get angry, because I do deserve to have a rich, enriched life. I deserve to have people that I want to meet and be around, even though it's really kind of hard for me to meet them, because I'm always I have a very basic life. Like I literally go to work and I come home. Okay. But there's certain things I want to do. I want projects in my life. I want to do things in my life, but they have prevented me from doing it because I have been trafficked. I'm a victim of human trafficking. So they basically force you into a bubble. You know what I mean? And so, and then one of the ways they do this is by giving you a bad reputation. There's a lot of women in this community that I've met who've had children, more than one, out of wedlock, and nobody had to deal with the social repercussions as hard as I did. You know what I mean? And yet, like I said, here's a man who basically abused a woman, not for a year, but for over 2 decades, and this man is like held up like he's some sort of a fucking god. You know what I mean? I look at the hypocrisy in people, and then I keep thinking, why in the fucking world would I want to go out and meet people or be their fucking friend? If people's logic is that skewed, why would I want to have to deal with them? You know what I mean? Seriously, I mean, it does. It just boggles my mind. But anyway, I just wanted to talk a little bit because certain things it pisses me off sometimes, and it's going to piss me off for the rest of my life because I feel as though I've been cheated out of a life. I could have had a better life had this not have happened. Had people just respected my wishes, and had let me go on with my life, I would have been able to meet the right people in my life. I would have been able to do the things that I wanted to do, however crazy they were, but that was my choice. You know what I mean? Whatever thing I wanted to do, whether that be write a book, whether that would be like, to join a poetic group, to explore some of the, mind issues that I've been wanting to explore, how putting together that project that I wanted to do a few years ago, whatever that was, I could have done better in my life with the momentum, with the drive that I had at the time without these people. I feel like these people owe me a lifetime as well as millions of fucking dollars, okay, that I will never get. I will never get the time that these people taken out of my life. I think these people, I don't know if that girl from Murray Family Farms, I get the feeling that she's married to either my ex-husband, Bruce maybe, or maybe the guy from, I don't know, but somehow or another, she was in part of my life and she didn't belong in it. You know what I mean? And I don't consider, I think that the fact that they were trying to make me compete against this person, or she wanted to compete against me, it's strictly racial. I'm not interested in anybody's racial games, okay? I don't have anything to fight over with a girl that young, okay? And like I said, the only time that somebody's going to sit here and put you against somebody, or put you in or somebody's going to like fight for something, women are going to fight for something with such a huge age difference, is if it's usually over a man. I would never fight over a man. I really wouldn't do that. So go on, little girl, and have whoever it is you want to. I'm not interested in living like you. Okay, and I don't want your fucking marriage, and I don't want your fucking kids, which you probably have a shitload by now, and I don't want anything to do with your life or anything that resembles your life. Okay, I'm trying to live my life. I'm trying to pick up my life and where it left off, and I'm struggling to do that. All because of evil fucking people. People who've worn masks of religion to hide their intention or use it as an excuse to justify their wicked behavior. You know what I mean? And yeah, you could say that I had a child out of wedlock. People can talk shit all they want to. They can talk about how I love my eyeshadow. Fuck yeah, I do. I love eyeshadow. I love it. I love it. I love it. But you know what? And it has nothing to do with men. I love clothes. I love fashion. I love those sort of things, okay? And I wish I could get more of that sort of stuff, but I have to be reasonable. I can't sit here and spend my check on clothes all the time. So I had to be nice to myself and say, Maria, I had to be hard on myself. I say, Maria, you can't do that. I'm getting older. I need to put money away. I need to save, more. So I can't do those. But those are the things that keeps me on and keeps me hanging on to life. It does, okay? Because I will tell you what, I don't believe in living for people. I will never live for a human being ever. Now, of course, I love my son. He's the world to me, okay? But I don't, there is not anyone other than my son in this world that I care about. And I would not ever, I care about living my life for me. There is no one in my life. My family has never treated me with any amount of respect, including my mother. So I would not sit here and change my life to make her happy. My mother's dead now. So and you can call it what you ever want, but you know what? When people abuse you, in which I have been abused, I will tell you I will not make any sacrifices for anyone. And anybody who does make sacrifices in their life to make somebody else happy, who have abused them, you're a fucking fool, is what you are. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't suggest being their puppet, you know. I have been, really set back a lot in my life. And there's times where I sit here and I think about it, and I think about it, and it's like, okay, I have a few good years left. So I'm going to get up every morning and I'm going to put on the nicest outfit I can. If I want to cake on my fucking purple eyeshadow, I'm going to do it. You know why? Because it makes me happy. For that few little hours that I get to exist during the day with, in the daylight, I'm going to enjoy those things for that little bit of time. Because I'm going to come home and I'm going to wash it off and I'm going to go back to my shitty apartment and think about all the fucked up things everyone did to me. Because that's exactly what it is. You know what I mean? So I have the right to enjoy my life for as little as I can, as much as I can. You know what I mean? And I think that these people, to me, there is no excuse for what they've done. There really is no excuse for what they've done. There is none whatsoever. And yeah, I didn't mean to turn this into a bashing video, but I just started talking, and I just kind of got out of hand, which it's understandable because I've never had justice. Like, I seriously wish I could see these people executed. I'm not kidding you. Seriously, I'm not kidding you. Because you cannot give me that time back. You can't give it back to me. You know what I mean? And what little life I do have, I do appreciate it. I like my little arts and crafts. I enjoy, my felt crafts. I enjoy my painting. And no, I am not an artist. Anybody who's seen any of my paintings, my paintings, would tell you I'm not an artist. I'm not, okay? And I'm not going to try. I don't care if they want to think of me as an artist, okay? But I know that these people have painted a picture of me that they wanted to paint me as less than what I am because they are that jealous of me. They are extremely jealous of me. I don't want people defining me. I define myself, okay? But I just want them to know that, you're evil. You're fucking way evil. You owe someone a lifetime. And obviously, if I did something like this to another human being, I don't know how I would live with myself. I really don't, okay? But the reason why these people get to walk out in the street and they're not ashamed of themselves is because they are welcomed by a society that is just as evil as they are. So anyway, I said what I needed to say, you know. I didn't mean to go into all of this, but I guess it's just another therapy session. Had to get it out. Had to get it out. So anyway, I'm going to wrap up this video, and I will be back with another video sometime later. Take care. Bye-bye.